Hello, hello, hello. I gotta get, I gotta fix a little bit of stuff here. There we go. Now I gotta put it in the box. That's the box. Nice. All right. I did it. This is my first time setting up a live stream alone with no one else in here with me. What does whoever's here, what do they think? Does the audio sound good and everybody's good? Maybe turn down the music a little. All right, this is me for a little while. I guess I'm just gonna hang out here for a minute, and if anybody has any questions or anything, I'm gonna be doing prep on the descent. So. Oh, okay, my audio is quiet, you said, Eric? I can probably turn music down some. I should sound fine. That's why it sounds bad. It's pulling from my webcam. That's strange. No, I think it's coming from my webcam. That's weird. It's not registering my microphone. My microphone isn't coming up. Technical difficulties. Okay, did I fix it? Does it sound better now? Yeah, it should be better now. Jamming out to some. Yeah. Thank you. What's up, Eric? How are you doing, buddy? Why don't I just? why don't I? What are you busy? You want to come hang out? I switched it over. Eric, you can come hang out with me if you want to. In the Zoom call. I got a Zoom call. And you can just do audio only if you want. The live stream is supposed to be on Friday, but I have a tattoo appointment on Friday. I was supposed to have my tattoo appointment on Tuesday, but I got canceled because of the snow and all that shit that I've been getting. I talked to you guys about it. Yeah. Sure.
Hey, dude.
What's up, buddy? Talk for me real quick.
Yeah, talking quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
Oh, I set it up so that I can do some more setup. Oh yeah. Well, good to see you, Will. Thanks for stopping by. Eric, did you watch the video that I made?
Yeah, I got most of it. I don't remember. Did we meet? We didn't meet Bones or whatever his name was when we did.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Did we?
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Boom. Okay, now talk.
1, 2, 3. Talking. 1, 2, 3.
There's going to be an echo on you, so I have to fix that.
Sounds okay on the stream on my end, but
With you and the music?
yeah, I think so. Here, let me listen for it for a bit. But
I can just turn this off.
yeah, it's maybe a scotch loud, but sounds pretty good on my end.
Yeah, let me fix it.
Mm.
Okay, that should be good. And I can just turn it off for me. I don't need to hear it.
Yeah, we good to go.
Okay, cool. Cool. I got everything set up. Look at me
Yeah,
go. All right. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty damn good. Well, I'm really sad because game got canceled this week and then next week too. So it's gonna be a whole week before I get D&D.
I know. Tell me about it. I've been doing lots of prep today. That's what I've been up to.
Oh. But
The
your
way the
video, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The video. No, please.
So I really liked it, first of all.
Thank you.
Absolutely great title of Kicking the Kitten that just conveys so much energy.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, it definitely, what I really like about it is it fits into that idea of you need to show people and not just tell them.
Absolutely. Show, don't tell. That was another title I tossed around for the idea. Hey, what's up, Sock? Good to see you, buddy. If you have any questions about D&D, please let us know. This is what we're here for today. If I'm being honest, this is my first time ever writing a video script like this. And I feel like I rambled a lot and I didn't really get to the point as quickly as I wanted to. And I didn't like how I role played in it. I don't think I needed that. So the next video that I'm making is on the illusion of choice. And it's going to be, oh my God, the script is already 10 times better. So I haven't recorded it yet, but it's already like way better of a video. So I'm way happier with the next video that's going to come out like that.
Hell yeah, dude. I mean, the first one is always a gimme.
Right, I had to practice.
So is this going to be an ongoing...
Maybe.
An ongoing thing? I'm down for it, especially since Plane Hoppers
Guild. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do any more Plane Hoppers Guild. Just as it's a good audio medium and it's good to listen to. But I feel like if I want to get more attention to the YouTube, I need to make videos because nobody watches podcasts on YouTube. So I think I'm gonna have to start making, like, if I have topics I want to talk about like this, I'm gonna make a video about it. Yeah. My illusion of choice one is gonna be crazy.
It sounds really good.
Yeah, it's gonna be nuts. And honestly, I don't know if I want you guys to watch it because it's basically like I'm lying to you all the time, and I don't. That kind of ruins the illusion.
I mean, it's not exactly new information. Like you've caught me a few times already, so.
Yeah, well, I could also. I have a +10 to insight. All right, we got a question, Eric. It says, how much prep do you usually do for sessions? So for me, per session, man, it's hard to say. Overall, I prep every waking hour that I possibly can. When I'm not at work, I go home and I'm not doing something with the kids or something. Any of my free time, I'm doing prep. I'm working out NPCs or working out a playlist or doing something to promote the video. So like Descent is like my all-consuming hobby. So anytime I have free time, that's what I'm doing. But for a session, I never prep 2 sessions ahead. I always prep the very next session. What about you, Eric?
Kind of like you. I mean, it's always simmering on the back burner. So, if you come across like a cool piece of art or some music, like, oh yeah, I can save that away for later. For the next session, the rule is, 1 hour of prep for 1 hour of play. Usually tends to be a bit longer than that. I would say typical session is about 5 or 6 hours.
Yep.
Of active prep.
Yep. I'd say about the same for me. And I do really in-depth prep too, because usually what they say is prep what you don't feel comfortable improvising. And I'm really bad at I can improvise scenes and like scenarios easily, but I'm terrible at dialogue. So I prep like lots of dialogue options. And that's what consumes most of my time is I'm just fucking hammering away at the keyboard at all hours.
Yeah. A lot of it just for me is like writing, like going into new areas, doing all the descriptions and all the enemies, where everything goes. That takes a big chunk of it. Just getting that part.
So let's keep it on theme, Eric. So let's talk about the Kick the Kitten Method. Did you learn anything, or did you find anything find that you use this method or anything like that?
It gave me some pause to think about where I've seen this before. Like you pointed out John Wick, that is the perfect metaphor or the perfect use of it. You don't really think about, oh, this is why they did it.
Right.
So it's such a natural thing. You don't think like, oh, this is a plot hook, This is, an emotional thing that's happening to you. It's like, oh, fuck, this is awful.
Right.
Which is perfect for D&D.
Yeah, exactly. I even say after I talk about John Wick, I'm like, and this is where the fun begins. Because it's like, now we got to use our these villainous, horrible things for our advantage in the game.
And you brought up a good point too of it's very important to make your players give a shit about the story. I mean, it's kind of on them to make characters who give a shit. Like if they make someone who's a loner who doesn't care anyone, well, that's what do you do with that? But you can't just plop them into a city and say, okay, you need to care about these people. Some people might struggle with that.
Right. Absolutely. We got another question from Sock. He says, I feel like a favorite 5e class to play is a common question, but what's your favorite class to DM for? What is it for you, Eric? Do you have a favorite class to DM for?
That's an interesting question. I mean, to be brutally honest, I don't think the classes matter much from the DM side. It's all You're not really worrying about the player classes. You're more futzing around with NPCs and stuff. Yeah. I would say, though, I think any of the casting classes are definitely cool just because of the effect they can have on a battle.
For sure. And going around encounters and stuff like that with just a single cast of a spell or something.
Yeah. What about you?
So I think my favorite would have to be Paladin or Warlock. So Warlock, because I get to be the patron. So I have an active participation in the character's story, right? When most of the time it's like all backstory stuff, like, oh, this happened to me in my past. But a Warlock is actively in a pact with some larger deity or entity. So I get to be that entity. So it's a lot of fun. The other one for me would be a Paladin, because if they're playing their Paladin like how they should be playing their Paladin, it basically has a set of rules built into the class that they have to follow, and you can sort of play off of those rules and those, you know what I mean? So to put them in scenarios where they have to question their morals,
Right.
you know, because morals are built into paladins. You don't have to play a paladin with a lot of morals, but it's part of the class. It's an aspect of the class that you could go for, and that's something fun, is to put someone who holds onto their morals very tightly into a scenario.
I definitely see that. And good point about the warlock. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's what Sock said too. He said his favorite's the warlock because their patronage is a built-in plot hook. That's exactly right.
So I have a question for you on the topic of your video.
Hmm.
Do you, thinking of the wording, do you try and make these scenarios, these kicking the kitten scenarios, quote unquote, realistic, or you just like go Saturday morning cartoon ham,
Well,
make them fucking evil and just...
you can do both. Both are still relevant. I think a lot of what the Kick the Kitten, I went very specific with my example of the Kick the Kitten, but it's a lot broader than what I covered. Like, for example, when you guys got out of Elturel before it, the first session, right? The second session was showing you Kick the Kitten, right? It was like, these are all these people that are suffering, and they have no home now, and they're hungry and they're crying, and that's to get you guys to care later on, right? Or to care about Elturel, to care about these people. So actually, I even thought of a better one. First session, you guys are escaping from Elturel, and you get to the bridge, and there's just bad guys standing there killing innocent people as they're trying to flee. And you guys immediately were like, we have to stop this guy.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think both are relevant. Like, if you want to get your villain to be, you can do Saturday morning cartoon evil, but you can also do more vague, wider spanning ideas.
Yeah. Legit.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I wasn't super happy with the video, to be honest with you, but I will make another one that is better.
Dude, it was great. It was your first time. You're writing it out. You're getting a feel for it.
Yeah. The editing, though, was not bad.
Yeah, the editing was good.
Yeah, the editing was not half bad. I think it took Eric. It took me maybe 20 hours to do that video, that 20-minute video.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and it shows you put the effort into it. You say your next script is going to be good. It's going to be great.
Oh my god, it's going to be good. It's going to be so good. The illusion of choice is what it's about. It's it's good. Yeah, and the good thing about writing a script was I can copy and paste it into the closed captioning, and the AI of YouTube puts the phrases where they would go. So all I had to do was copy and paste my script, and now I have closed captioning for the video.
That's pretty handy.
It was pretty cool. That makes it a lot more accessible to everyone else.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's see if I can whip out some more topics about the Kick the Kitten. Can you think of any other examples from pop culture?
I mean, I know there's tons, but it's one of those things that's so in the background, it's hard to think about. I would say a version of this might be BioShock Infinite. Like when you're in the very beginning of the story, you're going through Colombia when it's all sort of nice and pretty and like, oh, it looks beautiful. It's, there's birds and plants and the sun is out. It's like this idyllic Americana. And then you get to the scene in the park where you have to throw like baseballs at
Oh yeah,
a couple.
I remember that.
I think that fits in with Kick the Kitten because you see this, horrific thing in this background and be like, okay, I see what this is about now. These
Right.
people are not good.
That's a good example. Another one that I wanted to include in the video, but I didn't think it fit as well, is when they in Star Wars Episode 4, The New Hope, when they kidnap Princess Leia, right? And they got Princess Leia standing in the Death Star, or in front of the Death Star or whatever, and they got her looking out the window at Alderaan. And oh man, what's that general's name? There's Darth Vader's there, and then there's that fucking douchebag general guy. I can't remember his name right now, but he's there too. And he's like, "Tell us where the rebel base is." She's like, "Okay, fine, it's here," right? And then they're like, "Good," and then they blow up Alderaan anyways.
Yeah.
That's very much a Kick the Kitten, where they're like just doing it to show that they're evil, to her specifically, to the characters of the story specifically.
We got another question. What is your favorite part about using fiends as a DM?
I like fiends.
I know you do.
Those are my favorite. What's my favorite part? I think one of the cool things about fiends is that there's no gray with fiends, but they like to paint it like there is, right? So like fighting a bunch of goblins. I recently played with a friend of mine who ran Lost Mine of Phandelver, and the goblin ambush or whatever. No, actually, I think we were making characters, and I was like, oh, it's probably very important that you have a vendetta against goblins, or understand that goblins are evil. And they were like, oh, but not all goblins are evil, right? Like we're killing like a race of people that's not very, that's like racist, But, and I can understand that, right? Because you're right. Some people in their games, they don't treat goblins as evil. They could be shopkeepers in town, So, but with fiends, it's so easy. Just be like, oh, they're fucking evil. Every time you see one, they're bad. There's no question about it. I guess the same goes for like demons too. There's just no question about it. This thing is evil.
Hell yeah.
But I like that they paint themselves as not being, where they're like, oh no, I'm just gonna help you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Have you ever used fiends? I don't think so. You just got Strahd and his undead minions.
There are things occurring in the background you haven't found yet.
Don't tell me about it.
Well, you do know that Daddy Dearest is paying attention to his favorite son.
Oh boy, that's some good shit, Erica. That is some good shit.
I think what I like about Devils especially is you really get the gambit of like low-level enemy to basically gods.
That's
like
true.
that huge power range that you have access to.
That's true. Another thing that I like about Devils is, I don't know why, but I have this personal, like I'm wearing like a Baphomet shirt. I got like a pentagram on my hat. I got like a pentagram on my hand. I just like the aspects of the folklore behind devils and the devil and demons and stuff like that. Like in the real world, and like I'm reading the Bible just so I can learn more about who this devil character is and his connection between the angels and God and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and it's something that basically every culture has a version of their own devil.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right about that. Have you ever run? You've played in Lost Mine of Fandover, right?
Yeah, just yours.
You've never run it or looked it over?
I looked it up. My sister actually wants to run Lost Mines of Fandelver pretty soon. Really casual game.
Right.
It's by making the Barbarian, but I know a little bit about it, but not much.
That's cool. That's still cool. Like it is, like I said in the beginning of the video, like it's a lot of people's first experience with D&D, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and hopefully we might even expand down into Fandelver and below if we get through.
But they're the same adventure. Like Fandelver and below is just tacked onto the end of Lost Mine of Fandelver. They're the same adventure. My friend that was gonna start running, they were like, "Oh, I want to run D&D," and I was like, "Okay, you should run Lost Mine of Fandelver." And I was like, "But you should get Fandelver and below the book because it does expand out certain aspects, you know, and it gives you character art for Gundren, you know what I mean, and character art for Clark, the Bugbear, and gives you character art for the Town Master, and it sort of collects all the information in a easier to consume way."
Yep.
Stuff. Looking over my script to see. Do you have any questions, Eric? Just about anything, like shit we would talk about in Plane Hovers Guild or something.
Actually, let me check the Discord and see if there's any topics we had. No.
Where's our little podcast doc?
Gosh, yeah. Somewhere around there.
Oh, I think I got it. Alignment discussion.
Let's see. Online versus in person. We talked about that.
Accents, voice changers. Bold dragons and dragonborns. You know more about a lot of this stuff now, don't you?
It's still good to talk about. I mean, picking your brain over is definitely more valuable than mine. Milestone versus EXP.
I asked that at my Discord the other day. Everybody said Milestone because I wasn't there, but I ran a campaign that only did XP for like the majority of it. Okay, actually, we have another question. Here it is. How do you usually handle CR stuff when designing a difficult encounter? I always have to freestyle. I wonder your approach to dealing with how strong players get. Okay, so I have an answer for this question. Do you want to? Do you have any input, Eric?
I'm not the right person to ask for this. The last time we ran the last session at Curse of Strahd, they fucking annihilated one of the combat encounters I had. Did not get hit once, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think I did. I also oh no, that was before I upped my AC. You still got some ideas. You got some pretty good ideas. Your encounter with the wizard was pretty cool. But I have an answer for this question. So my new favorite thing is to design combat encounters. I used to like put that second to like role play and storytelling stuff. My number one deal is like making crazy fucking encounters. And the way that I do that is you have to sort of get a feel for how your player character's batting average. So, for example, when you look at CR, that is supposed to be based on 4 characters at that level, and it'll be a medium encounter. So it's only supposed to tax a little bit of resources. It's not gonna, they shouldn't be in threat of dying. Hard is tax resources and maybe a little bit of threat of dying, and then very hard is dying's on the table. Deadly means one person's gonna die. However, that's for 4 characters of that level. But I know my players, which is you too, Eric, bat well above their average. So I can, for a medium encounter with them, they need to fight at least like a CR. If they're level 5, they need to fight at least a CR 7 for it to be a medium encounter. I don't know how. They just bat above their average. They just do a lot more damage and are more strategic than that. So what I have taken to doing is putting them against 4 or 5 levels above them. So if they're you know, 5th level, the boss monster is like a CR 10 or CR 9, and they have 2 or 3 CR 4 or 3 minions, and that really makes a challenging encounter. That puts them on there. That gets them worried. That's a double tap on Ophelia, and everybody starts running in like, we gotta get Ophelia out of there.
Which is perfect.
Yes.
Just getting them to play on the ragged edge is where the fun comes from.
Yes, and so, I want to add one more thing before you say something, Eric. Remember what you're going to say. Sock, I want to tell you, the way to make an encounter more challenging is to make it not just be, I hit them, they hit me, I hit them, they hit me. You need to have some sort of mechanic where they get pushed 10 feet back and then it's difficult terrain and they can't get back. Or every time they get hit, they go prone. You know, something that adds an extra element that makes it more challenging, where they have to not just think, I hit them, you hit me, I hit them, they hit me, where maybe the guy moves all the time and you can't pin him down, or something where it's a puzzle. It needs to be something, a puzzle to solve, instead of just, I hit him, he hits me.
So I have a question. When it comes to creating groups of enemies, is it just you add a CR1 and CR1 enemy makes a CR2 encounter?
No.
Is it that linear, or?
No, I use an encounter calculator, because it will tell you, like, once you get up to the number of characters plus, the difficulty goes up substantially. I don't ever have to deal with that because you guys bat so high above your average. There's never an issue whether or not you could take out a group. But if you want a big ass group, I just turn them all into minions.
Right.
And make it like a fight with minions. But I've only recently started using that. But I wanted like a big fucking shitload of enemies fight. Just turn them all into minions and then just let them stomp on them, you know?
Oh, yeah.
World itself as a villain. That's Will.
Yeah, which is a good point. Like, if you're creating, especially if you're homebrewing, you know, it's not just evil people. You know, you can have institutionalized evil. You can have, you know, the setting itself, the world they live in. You know, the atmosphere.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And an evil organization is the worst. Right? You guys hated, what's his name? Maxwell Dinar. Oh, you weren't part of that group, but they hated Maxwell Dinar, right? They hated Thalamra. right?
Mhm.
The Lamra representing a larger system, you know, like fighting up against the Duke of Baldur's Gate sucks way worse than just some bad guy.
Oh yeah.
That's true. They said the exorcism battle went way quicker than I wanted it to, and it was extremely complicated. That was the most complicated fight I've ever run.
It was complicated, but it was good in a fun way because it really made you, or at least it made me kind of stop and think about what was going on more than just hit.
Were you around? You must have been around for when they fought in Oriel's abode, and there was that massive fight with the Frost Warden.
Yep.
You were there for that?
I was there.
Yeah.
I was watching. Yeah.
That fight was in, you know, I think you were playing Vlin at the time, weren't you? I think I was like, you gotta play Vlin for this.
It was
Maybe.
around that time.
Maybe,
it was in that sphere.
But man, that fight was it. That was one of the craziest. That was the craziest fight I've ever run, because there was a fuckload of enemies, just a fucking bucket load of them, and every one of them was extremely powerful. And by the time they walked out of that fight, they were beat the fuck up.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't it like as soon as they got out of the fight, they had to like fucking bucket because there's somebody after them?
Yes. No. Then they had to do the challenges.
Oh, that's it.
Oh man, that was the worst. Man, I put them boys through the fucking ringer. Oh man, good times. Yes, that's a good point. Someone said institutional evil can't be killed. That's why it sucks. You always have a sense it'll live on.
Yeah, we kind of got that going through with the Order of the Companion right now in the Descent.
You guys are gonna just walk away with a vampire in the high hall and Fox Rowley still out and about.
It wasn't planned, I'll tell you that. It was. I thought we were going a different direction, but all right.
Listen,
let's jump off of Ernest.
Listen, I create scenarios, not solutions. If nobody has asked, no one has asked anything to us a little bit. How do you handle character deaths with such a story-driven game? So, like, into the Descent, how would we handle character deaths?
Well, we haven't yet, but we've gotten close.
Very close.
Yeah.
That one time with August against the Knolls.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about it then. We were talking about what would happen then. But I guess I have a couple of things in my back pocket. One thing I want to say is you don't want to underestimate their ability to come back to life. Like, even if Ophelia had died, she could have been revivified. You know?
Well, you decided at the last minute when she was on
now
two
it's
death
canon.
saves.
Now it's canon.
That was...
Now it's the way the rules are going to work from here on out. So,
I walked into this with the expectation that a second character is always going to be in play. And I'm sure the other guys think the same way too. Like, it would suck if somebody died. And it would be a big moment, but it's in the back of your head that it's always a possibility.
Yeah. So, but I have an idea or two for if one character kind of goes down. I mean, I'm not totally gonna write off everybody just yet. I mean, if Ophelia dies, that's a wrap. But you know, there's other people have other chances. Very much the idea of like Legend of Vox Machina, Vex and Vax.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's always a possibility, but I wouldn't bank on it. No. If August dies, I'm probably just gonna say August dies, and then Tanis is gonna be in charge.
And it kind of depends on how thematic it will be. Like, like you said, if August dies, Tannis having to step up as the leader, that would be
Awesome.
a really cool story.
Yeah. Sick as fuck. I would 100% go for that. But I think if you can walk it into cooler, like more intense moments, like if Ophelia dies, she becomes like a Hell Knight, and that's horrifying to think about, right? Like that's an incredible story that's going to come from that.
Mm-hmm.
If Finn dies or London dies, it would be a little lackluster. So we needed I need an idea. I have an idea on how to make that a little bit more dramatic.
Oh, I have an idea for Vin.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. August Possession, that was a rough one.
It was intense for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that. That was so good.
I love the fact that I'm pretty sure we kicked the demon's ass so bad because you put me into a stun on the first battle and I couldn't use my smites the entire round.
Yeah,
that is the
true.
only reason I had 2 level 2 spell slots.
I cannot believe I did that too. I didn't even think about it. I was like, Ophelia's going to do the most damage. I got to shut her down. And then you didn't fight for the rest of the combat. Oh man, that's like Chris in the Oriel fight where he was just stunned the whole game. That sucks though, because that was the final boss fight.
But it worked out.
Everybody won. That's an interesting question. Would you ever change an NPC into a player character to bring the player back into the game? Like if London died, Hamilton joined his place. That's a good question. I guess it just depends on what the player would want to do. But I imagine, if I was a player, I would want to take that opportunity to make a new character that fits more into the story. We kind of talked to them about this on New Year's, but I would want to make a new character with the knowledge that I already know about the campaign and base a character around those themes.
Yeah. I mean, I made jokes about taking over Jax if Ophelia does. But I would definitely... I would prefer to make a new character that was quote unquote, always in the story, but was like just in the background. I wouldn't want to do something like create a whole new character and just have them conveniently show up. Like, hey, I'm a player. Let me join your group.
Right. It would have to make sense.
Yeah.
It would have to make sense. I do have the cat's almost out of the bag. I do have an idea for getting a guest on Descent. Maybe have a little guest character.
Is it going to be Voss?
No, it's not gonna be.
He shows up in that.
Voss comes in.
Yeah.
No, it's oh fuck, what was that thing's name? Oh god, the
Jagashaki?
Jagashaki.
Yeah.
No. But that is a thing though. This is just a tip. If you have a guest player come in, the characters we're gonna use the players are gonna use meta knowledge to know, hey, we gotta get this guy into the fold, right? So we'll bend our suspension of disbelief to get this guy into the group, right? But you can plant a shitload of important information on this guest guy, and the players are more likely to trust and listen to this character because it's another player.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what we did with Voss, right? Because I was like, it would have been cool if I played an NPC Githyanki, but how much more impactful is it to get this Githyanki NPC to like join the party and be another player?
Yeah, and fuck with your other players.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay. Will asks a good one. Who do you consider the most evil villain I've ever ran? Zagmyra and Avarice were absolutely despicable. but I absolutely loathe Father. Oh wow, that's good. Oh, the worst villain I've ever played. It was just like oh, Commander Breakbones, without a shadow of a doubt. And he wasn't even evil. Like, I feel like we were saying, Will, like you don't like Father probably because of his like self-importance, self-righteousness, where he thinks he's doing the right thing and he's telling everyone he's doing the right thing. But like he's a vampire. You know that there's something wrong with that. But Commander Breakbone, he was a knight paladin of Tyr, and he had control of this whole camp, and he was making them live in squalor and shit, and like people were dying of disease, and he was like, no, we have to keep fighting the undead in the jungle. And this girl, Undril, traveled across the ocean thousands and thousands of miles into the jungle to find this guy and deliver him a letter from his commanding officer that said, you need to retreat out of the jungle, right? But she wasn't supposed to read it. She did anyways. But she wasn't supposed to read it. And she gave that letter to Commander Breakbones. The players escorted her there. Commander Breakbones opened up the letter, read it, and then burned it. Went outside and said, reinforcements are coming. They're going to help us.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, Jesus is right. It was bad. And he like conscripted the players there. He's like, listen, you either die now or you join our fucking army against the undead and shit. He was bad. That was a bad guy.
Yeah, that's a great example of like evil, but not being super overt about it.
Right. He wasn't like villainous or evil, but he was a bad guy. I think I have a good answer for you, Eric. I would have to say Mr. Strahd.
Yeah, I mean, how do you compete with Strahd?
You can't.
Especially with what you're seeing now.
God, I hate him. Oh my God, he's the worst. Yeah, I think, yeah.
I mean, if we're talking, I mean, not the obvious, Prawns to Shelf in the very first campaign, I didn't get to do as much with him as I wanted, but he was evil in the way that infuriatingly childish, I would say. His entire thing was he was going to fuck with the players. He was going to ruin the items they were supposed to get. He was always going to be one step ahead, just causing trouble.
I mean, that's but Strahd though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Strahd is Pawns to Shelf on crack.
Yeah.
And you're playing him real good too, man. I'm like, oh boy, do I hate Strahd. Like, and it's not just because, oh, I hate Strahd because he's a bad guy. Like, you have played him to where I'm like, I fucking hate this guy.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But I mean, Pawns to Shelf, up until Strahd, I also hated that man. We wanted to kill him the first time we saw him. We were like, this guy sucks. Let's just fucking kill him.
Oh man, I don't think I showed this in the game, but I made a handout for, like, you were playing a dwarf who was like he was a master stonemason and, you know, wood carving and all of these kinds of things, and he was really excited about all that. So I was going to have them on one of the levels of Dungeons of the Mad Mage was going to be like a whole ancient dwarven temple with like these exquisite carvings, you know, all of the stuff about your dwarf, and every single one was going to have Pawns to Shelf's name carved into it.
Oh, I would freak out. That was a cool character, though. Yeah, I would have freaked out. I think about that character sometimes. Because it's like, that's a way to play a character and go off of like tool proficiencies that no one ever uses. I was like, I'm a carpenter. In real life, I'm a carpenter. Mm-hmm. I'm going to use my real life carpenter knowledge in the game to like come up with funky, like we were jamming the nail in the doors shut and stuff as we went through. Yeah. So it was fun. That was fun. There's 7 people watching. Somebody throw us some questions, please. we'd love to talk about the video that just came out if you've watched it. But otherwise, just we're just hanging out. I was thinking about going till 8 probably.
Okay. Yeah. So I have a question.
I have an answer, most likely.
So when it comes to incentivizing your players, trying to hook them in, whether it's through kicking the kitten or not, has there ever been a plot hook that your players didn't bite onto that you really thought about? Like, man, I wish they grabbed this.
I think I was going to show my hand a little bit, but we're past that method, or we're past that section. So I had this one series of encounters where while you guys were in Boulder's Gate, in the descent, while you were in Boulder's Gate, if you had, because you remember there was people smuggling in refugees into the city, and then the first time that you guys heard about it, it was like the guild was getting pissed off because someone else was doing it, right? And if that was a route that you guys were gonna investigate, like how do we, like, trying to sneak in the city, you know how Tanis was dressed up as like a refugee, maybe he was going to try to get smuggled into the city or something. I have like a series of encounters that where like you could have gotten more involved with the guild and like sort of went that route, and I like had some guild members, NPCs that sort of would have gotten involved and stuff like that.
Yeah. Too bad we didn't get to that.
Yeah, I definitely like planned a lot of it, like maybe 4 or 5 encounters in a chain.
Yeah. All right, we got a couple questions.
Best ways to implement terrain to help players take on. They decide to take an alternate route. Best ways to implement terrain. Players take on a more powerful. Not sure I understand that question.
What I'm getting from it is, like, if you were to put things into a battle map that your players could interact with to help them, like if, the classic Baldur's Gate example, explosive barrels, or like there's a bridge you could theoretically shoot out and, the enemies would fall or something like that.
Oh, I see. For sure. Okay. So I have an answer to this question. Do you have any ideas yourself, Eric? I mean, I guess you brought up some, the barrels and the bridge.
I'm trying to think if there are any actual examples from the games. One that I don't think we got to in Dungeons of the Mad Mage was if you were to help the Myconids. I don't know if you remember, like Prance du Shelf killed a bunch of Myconids.
I do.
That were traitors.
I do remember.
And if you would have helped them on a later level, they could have cleansed an area of poison to let you go through, quicker or something like that.
That's cool. I think so. My DM hero, right? Like the DM that I don't necessarily strive to be, but like my favorite DM ever is Chris Perkins, the creative designer of Dungeons and Dragons. He has this method of describing things that I don't use. It's very minimalistic. He says, oh, you walk into the room, there's a shelf with books on it, a table, and a door on the other side. And then he leaves it up to the players to be like, what books are on the shelf or what's on the table. He opens up with a very brief description, and it is implied that the players are supposed to ask more detailed questions. That is a method to set up, like, is there a chandelier? Like, if they're in a fight, if you leave your description vague, then they can be like, is there a chandelier in this room that I could swing from or drop on the enemy? And because I didn't bring it up, yes, there is one. Or no, there isn't. You know what I'm saying? Is there some crates I can duck behind? Yes, there is. Or no, there isn't. Depending.
Right.
And that he does that all the time. He has a player who's a writer. God, I can't remember his name. He was on Critical Role one time. He played he had this long beard. He played the, like,
I know who you're talking about.
Do you know
kind
him?
of an older guy?
Yes, and he played the gnome or whatever that gave them the last artifact to defeat Vecna in Vox Machina.
I know who you're talking about. I don't
Right?
remember his name.
So he's Patrick Rothfuss. But he plays in Chris Perkins games all the time. And he always is like, is there a chandelier? Is there a chandelier? His character is like a swashbuckler, and he always swings on chandeliers. So he always asks if there's a chandelier, and all the time you can tell that Chris is like, no, there isn't a chandelier, but he always says yes. Okay. Let's see what we got here. How do you approach gods in your campaign? Modern fantasy and D&D kind of portrays gods as similar to humans, and I'm always interested in how other people's represent, play, and utilize gods. Okay. Do you have something for this?
No, you go ahead first.
So the world that I use is the Forgotten Realms. And there was a time, way long time ago in the history of the game, right? Like a long time ago, where gods had a very active participation in the world. But some shit went down. I'm not going to tell you all about Forgotten Realms fucking history right now. But there is now a wall, let's say, where gods are on one side of the wall and humanity's on the other side of the wall. And the messenger between the wall is angels, or like other celestials, right? So gods can't just put their will on the world. They have to use some sort of, not funnel, like a channel, like a, like they have to use focus to get their influence onto the world. Gods cannot just have, like, can't just come down to earth. They'll, like, get murdered by the overgod. They'll get fucked up bad by the overgod. They'll get big trouble if they come down to earth personally. So they have to choose people or angels on earth to do their bidding for them.
Yeah.
That's what chosen are. Like, what's his name? Gale? Right? How he's always like, oh, I'm Mistress Chosen. Right? Because Mistress chose him to do her bidding on the world.
I'm trying to think, well, Gale, I mean, this is splitting hairs. I think Elminster is technically your chosen, because
Mistra has a shitload of chosens.
Yeah, that's true.
But yes, you're right.
So what I took from, apologize if I don't know his name exactly, it's a Sockdoor's question. What I'm taking from his is, how do the gods act in your games too?
Oh, sure.
Because, especially like what he pointed out, a lot of modern fantasy and D&D, the gods are just dudes and girls, and they come down and they talk to the players. This is difficult because the idea of a god is it's basically an alien being so far advanced from humans that it's almost incomprehensible to the layperson. Like, it's a fucking god. If you put them in front of a commoner, they would probably explode from radiant damage. I mean, this is just crazy. But trying to run it, I'm just a squishy little human. I don't know how to act like a god, so they end up acting like humans whenever they come up. And I don't know if there's a really good way to get around that.
I mean, if we're going on Forgotten Realms, which is what I use, gods are, like you said, these beings of the ultimate power. But then we get to Planescape, right? Which it's like Forgotten Realms sits here and then Planescape sits here. They're two separate settings, but Planescape incorporates all the stuff. And in Planescape, if you go to Sigil, the people of Sigil do not view gods as gods. They call them powers. They're just people. They're just really powerful people. But ain't nobody got shit on the Lady of Pain, right? So they literally treat gods. They just call them powers. Like they don't treat gods like gods. They treat them like just really powerful people, like the way you would treat a lich or a very powerful dragon.
Yeah.
So they are just people. They are just dudes in the grand scheme of things. But when you go down from that level and you go onto Faerun, they're gods. They have all this power. They created the world.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. It's what's the difference between a god and sufficiently powerful wizard?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. That's why Mystra put a cap on magic. Because she's like, y'all ain't being gods. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, favorite monster or enemy that you've run? What's your favorite monster you ever run? Or fought, I guess. Fought counts too.
I'm trying to think of a notable one. I don't mean that derogatorily. They were all great, but it's
I don't care.
You want to come up with something that really punches high. And the problem is I don't think we've gotten there yet in my campaign. And I know for a fact you have some crazy shit lined up. I mean, I would say the possession, that was a really good one. That one was a standout moment, I think, for everyone in the team.
Have you guys ever fought a Mind Flayer? Oh yeah, you did one time. Mind Flayers are my favorite to run.
Yeah, there was the Mind Flayer ship was
But Mind Flayers are my favorite. I've run a Mind Flayer in a lot of games. And I see you later. Those of you who are leaving, like Duck and Gladius and Sock. See you guys when I see you guys. But every time I run a Mind Flayer, in my convention one shot, there's a Mind Flayer as the boss, and every table I've ever run that for, when I describe the way that the tentacles reach out and wrap around their face and pull them in, every one of the tables always like, they have like visceral reactions from it, and that always is always a fun time for me. It's just the way that I describe the Mind Flayer is always freaks people out.
Oh yeah, I mean, freakier the better.
Right. Right. I think the best combats are the ones where the players are like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck are we dealing with here?
Oh, absolutely. Like, shock and awe is always kind of the goal for especially the big hot encounters.
We had one earlier as our thoughts on Player's Handbook. I haven't got to look into it too much. I did make 2 new Player's Handbook characters. And I'll say one thing. They are very powerful. Holy shit. Holy shit.
I need to get some of the books myself. I haven't looked too far. It's gonna be good, because more powerful players can be more fun. Let's just be honest. People like being powerful. It's the point of the game.
Right.
But when they say it's backwards compatible, that worries me a little bit. Because, how do you balance against players that are, 2 or 3 levels more powerful than their old counterparts are?
Right. But I think some of that, if it's not a custom NPC for that adventure, like Lost Mine of Fandelver, for example, there's no custom NPCs. It's all bog standard shit. I think that, like, if you use the new 2024 goblins against the new 2024 characters, you should have an all right time. It seems like they're taking a page from what I've seen so far. They're taking a page from Matt Colville's Flea Mortals, and are like giving every monster one little thing that's different. I mean, they're coming up with not just a ghast, but like a more powerful version of a ghast, and not just a lich, but a less powerful version of a lich. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of flea monsters, any third-party supplements you'd recommend for DIA? I don't know exactly what DIA is.
That's Descent into Avernus.
Well, broadly speaking, yeah, Flea Mortals, fantastic.
I was gonna say that too. Have you looked through it?
I sent it to you.
Oh, you sent it to me?
Yeah.
That shit is fire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. No, I use Flea Mortal all the time. When I'm creating a monster, the first thing I do is look through Flea Mortals. See if there's anything I can pull from it.
Yeah.
God, it's useful.
A lot of the custom stuff I've been doing for Curse of Strahd has taken inspirations from Flea Mortals, just because it's not just higher damage numbers and higher health. It is those unique little things they can do that really make it memorable.
I will say, as far as supplements for Descent into Avernus, because Descent is so far removed from Descent into Avernus, it's hard for me to suggest anything if you're going to run Descent into Avernus. As is, because it's awful. But I would highly suggest, if you're gonna like customize NPCs and monsters and stuff like that, yeah, Flea Mortals is good. Also another third party that's not necessarily a supplement, Matt Colville's running the game videos are fucking incredible. I watch them all the time. Like, when I'm bored, I'll just put on some of Matt Colville's videos, because just he has taught me so much about being a DM. Even this Kick the Kitten video is inspired by the style of videos that he does, except he's a talking head.
Mm-hmm. So here's a thought. Especially with a lot of the 2024 changes, a lot of the more religious classes seem to be moving away from specific gods. Paladins and clerics work off of divine magic, not necessarily their patron. What do you think about that change, about limiting the amount of influence a god might have?
But here's the thing. It never was not limited, right?
Right.
It's just the thing about the new rules is it's not that they're changing the rules. They're just telling you shit. They're telling you it's okay to do the things that you were already doing. Right? Like, not all paladins have to be religious. They're just canonizing it. Right? Now they're just like, it's okay to not be a religious paladin. And stuff like the thing they're doing with the species, the races, same shit. Like, they're like, you can do this, but you don't have to.
Right.
You can put 2 in your strength and 1 in your con, or you can just put 2 wherever you want and 1 wherever you want, which is what we were doing anyways. So I think it's not. I mean, it's a good thing. It's good that they're like, now they're telling you, hey, it's okay. It's okay. I don't necessarily hate that at all, to be honest. because you can still have a religious cleric.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Nothing dissuades that. And
Right.
ultimately, it's up to the dungeon master, because they can just say, you have to choose a god if they want to.
Right.
It's up to them.
It's up to them. Okay. Dude said basically Chris's reactions to a lot of our opponents when they're like, "Oh, what the fuck is this?"
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
That is basically Chris the whole time we play. How would you say your DMing styles have improved over the years? Quote, in parentheses, years. I'm going to shoot that one over to you, Eric. I'm still going to be listening, but I got to take my hoodie off.
Well, when it becomes a year, I'll let you know. I haven't been DMing for very long. Curse of Strahd is my second campaign I've ever run that hasn't been a one-shot. I'll say, as far as style goes, I am definitely moving in the direction more of I'm trying to pre-plan less and improv more. Like, I'll pre-plan like descriptions of rooms and places and, do photos, but I don't write out full scripts for NPCs. I don't assume, they're going to go to A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Because then you guys don't, and then I have to panic when you find the secret door that skips the entire dungeon.
Right. And honestly, you've gone from like 0 to hero. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You started when you started DMing and you didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah.
And now you're DMing and you do know what you're doing. So in that short period of time, you've made it quite a long way.
I admire your belief in me.
To get me invested, Eric, it takes a lot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I'll be real with everyone in this room right now. Okay. I don't like playing with every dungeon master. I'm picky. Because I know how good I am, and I don't want to settle. I will. I don't like to. But Eric, I don't feel like I have to settle. Like, I always enjoy coming.
Well, that is because I had a good trainer.
Oh, thank you very much. I will say, over the years that I've been playing, I've learned a lot of hard lessons. Like railroading. I've railroaded before. I felt really bad about it, and I still think about that moment to this day. And now I know better, And I've also learned. I feel like I've always kind of knew how to make an interesting encounter or how to make an interesting story, because it's something that I hyper fixate on. Like, I'm always looking up new ways to come up, watching Matt Colville video or any D&D videos, or learning as much as I can about D&D at all times. But something that I have personally learned from myself in my own experience is I feel like I've gotten more professional. Right? I took my original campaign and fucking Carl, you were there, right? Where it was like, originally I would do, if I would describe a room, I'd be like, it's, whatever, and here's the description. Now I'm like, in the chamber, there is, you know what I mean? Like, my descriptions are better, my NPCs are more well role-played. I always have like a lot more tension created in my games than I used to. Stuff like that. I've just stepped it up,
A healthy level of theatrics in the best way possible.
Yes, and it used to not be like that. It used to be a lot more casual.
Yeah.
A lot more Eric, my notes on God, but my first campaign, my notes was like 5 bullet points, and I just improvised most of it, and that was fine. But like, you miss out on so many of those little nuanced details and the things that I think I do best in my stories. Those little details and little bits of lore and pieces of information that don't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but makes the world feel more real, are things that I now have the ability to do. My notes are 20 pages long.
Oh yeah.
When they were a list of bullet points on a sheet of paper that I wrote with a pencil when I played in person, Eric.
No, I mean, I would love to get to a point where I can improv everything, but there are, especially world building stuff, there are absolutely things I think about, like, okay, when they get here, I absolutely want to hit on this thing. I want to describe it this way. I want to tell them about this, because it helps build that mind's eye kind of thing. I've played with a few dungeon masters where they say, okay, you walk into a field and just, that's it. And while it is fun, there is definitely a way to sort of, I almost said suck yourself. My brain is fried. That is not a good way to describe it, but a good way to put yourself into that mindset.
Right.
Where you can really be excited about something, or shocked by something, or horrified by something.
Yeah, setting a tone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Feeling the mood, the vibe. Yeah, absolutely. When I write out descriptions for stuff, I definitely keep in mind the tone I want to set. You know, if I want you to feel not good when you're there, I'm going to describe it. Like when we walked into Argenvossholt, like when you were describing Argenvossholt, I was like, this place is giving me the heebie-jeebies.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And that's the point.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's the point. That's what you should have been doing. So, yeah, I definitely can agree with that. See you later, Carl. Thanks for coming. Feel free to send us some more questions. We're gonna. We got like 20 more minutes before we leave, so any questions are welcome. Yeah, man. It has been snowing here for the first time in like 8 years. And it is chaos out there. It's so bad. Like the businesses, like banks are closed, and the government is closed. Schools are closed, and I wasn't prepared for there to be snow for 3 days, so I didn't go to the grocery store. So I've been trapped in my house. Wait, Eric, it gets worse. So then, so I went to the grocery store today. And as I'm pulling out of the parking lot, and it was scary. Like I'm you're from up north, right? So you know about like driving in the snow and shit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So that black ice, right? That's like slick on the tires. So I was leaving, and I was already not getting traction and stuff on my drive there, and I was like, oh, this sucks so bad. Put 2 hands on the wheel, you know what I mean? And I was pulling out of the parking lot at a 4-way stop signs. And I go to go straight, and some guy tries to stop at the stop sign, and he slides through it, and I fucking cream his car, bro. This happened today. I smashed into him today. And my car's fine. Like I have a truck with a grill cover guard thing on front of it and everything. Like I was so good, but I smashed his shit. And so that was a big event that happened to me today. And I decided I'm not leaving after this because I know I can drive in the snow. Other people cannot.
Oof, that's rough, dude.
Yeah, that happened today.
Yeah, which it's like you said, it's like, even if you're the perfect driver, you got to deal with everyone else.
Everyone else, yeah. There's fucking 18-wheelers jackknifing on the interstate and shit. Yeah, it's dangerous out there.
I wish it snowed more here.
Y'all probably didn't even get none, huh?
No, it's been lovely lately.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. It only snowed for a little bit here, but it's just been so cold that the ice will melt during the day a little bit and then freeze again at night. So yeah, it's just been days of just ice everywhere.
Yeah, that is the worst.
Yeah. Here in the South, we don't have like the salt machines, you know, or people that have the shovels to shovel their driveways. We don't have that. So nobody is prepared for this. Chains for the tires. We don't have that shit around here. Oh, here we go. The Descent is such a story-driven campaign. I know it's mostly due to the players, but have you had many options or plans for side objectives or freestyle play? I think it's like, is there any side quests, basically? Counter for reasons. Oh, like power leveling? No. But like stuff like side quests. I don't, without giving away too much because Eric is here. But I think, I mean, this isn't going to be a huge surprise to Eric, but so far it's been like 2 Baldur's Gate linear, Baldur's Gate non-linear, from Baldur's Gate linear through Elturel linear for the most part. It got a little open past 2 sessions, but mostly it was just linear. But once you get to Avernus itself, it's going to be non-linear again, and for a long time. I've decided to run Avernus like kind of like how I run Schult. Like it's going to be a hex crawl kind of. Like it's going to be open sandbox for sure.
That is the vibe that I was getting. And it's not maybe necessarily like you're not forcing it on anyone. It's just the result of how the story is going. Like there's only so much you can do in a city run by demons. Like
right.
You don't, you know. And I think that works perfectly well because there are times where story needs to be kind of maybe not necessarily on rails, but it needs to be in a pretty narrow valley flowing down. And then there are times where it can open up more.
Right, because I'm actually going to talk a lot about this in my next video that I make, which is called The Illusion of Choice. I'm going to call it something else. Oh, Railroad Your Players. That's what it's going to be called. And then The Illusion of Choice is going to be the subtitle. Just like Kick the Kitten is the main title of this video. You know what I mean? It's actually about like the Kick the Kitten method, but like Kick the Kitten is the clickbait, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the clickbait for that video is going to be like Railroad Your Players, but it's actually going to be more about like the illusion of choice. And your role as a DM is to create problems, not solutions, right? So you can't help that sometimes you have to present the problem and then a list of solutions to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And most of the time, the players are going to pick the logical choice, the one that makes the most sense after weighing it against the other options. And that can feel sometimes like linear, like a railroad.
Yeah.
But the option is still there. That's the thing that I'm going to talk about in this next video. Eric, you're going to need, like, it's going to ruin what is it called? Your disbelief, suspension of disbelief. It's going to ruin it for you, but you should really watch this video because I think it's one of my best and it's coming out like in 2 weeks, but it's one of my best, like, information wise. I feel like I made really good points, and it's not a video that I've seen anyone else make where it's like, yeah, you are kind of railroading them, but it's not, they are choosing this, right? It's like what is it where the prisoner falls in love with the captor?
Stockholm syndrome?
It's like Stockholm syndrome. Like they're asking for this. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have a whole video about it soon.
I mean, the difference between what you're describing and railroading is, with railroading, there is only ever one option. And if you try and stray from that, you get smacked back onto the track.
Right.
But that's not the same as, okay, there's clearly an option that is quote unquote good.
Better, right.
And then there are options that might technically fix the problem, but your players probably don't want to do it. At any time, you guys can take Irina to Strahd and just leave.
Right.
Probably.
Right.
At least he says so. But there are absolutely times where you can just say, okay, we'll just do this and we'll make a deal and then we can leave. But you don't want to do that.
Right. Right. The thing, okay, so I'm kind of spoiling my own video, but the definition of player agency. Player agency gets thrown around a lot in D&D, in the TTRPG space in general. Player agency. And what is player agency? Player agency is the feeling that what you are, the decisions, the choices that you are making have an impact on the world, right? Or mean something. That's what player agency is. So agency is not what happens after you make the choice. The agency is in the choice itself, right? Players cannot control the consequences of their actions, but they can control their actions. So putting all the emphasis on the decision itself, on the choice itself, is what makes it agency. So it doesn't matter what happens after that, right? It's the deliberation of the choice, right? This whole, I mean, I don't want to really get into this, but this whole deciding what to do with Father and Fox Rowley and all of that, I don't fucking care. Like, I don't fucking care what you do. That's your choice. But I'm putting all of that weight on you, and you guys are like, this is gonna mean something in the future, right? And that's what agency is. That's what this illusion of choice is. I don't fucking care. I'll just make it up, right? Like, that's, I only ever always make it all up, you know? But that's where the agency is most felt, is when you're like making that choice, deliberating the choice. That's half the fucking game. I'm sorry I went on a rant. I'm just very passionate about this, and I cannot wait to get this video out.
No, absolutely. I agree completely.
All right, we got time for like a couple more questions if anybody's got anything else for us. Thank you for joining me, Eric. This has made it a lot less awkward than me just sitting here alone.
Hell yeah, dude.
I appreciate it.
Anytime after work.
Cool. You'll probably have to come for my next live stream then, because I'm gonna do one just like this after the illusion of choice. It's supposed to be on a Friday though. Can you do Fridays?
I should be good for Fridays.
Fridays are supposed to be like, I did a poll in the Discord. And most people were like, "Oh, Friday is better for me." Yeah, I just couldn't because I have a tattoo appointment, which I hope I can make it to snow. I might have to drive again. Any more questions? Please let us know. Let us know that one of these four people that are watching, shout out. Who are you? What are you doing? Come ask me a question. I don't care who you are. How are you doing is a question. You like my stream?
The answer is rough.
You like my new stream layout? That's pretty sick, right?
Yeah, it looks really good.
I know, I whipped it up together today. All right. Well, looks like everybody's dipped out on us. That's okay. All right, well, thanks for hanging out with me, Eric.
Of course, dude.
Well, it's close enough to... Okay, no problem. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the Kick the Kitten video, even though it's not my best one. Look forward to the next one. It's going to be good. It's going to be way better. Illusion of choice. Oh, what is this? Oh, okay, this is a good last question. Do you think the Kick the Kitten is more important / impactful for one-time encounters or ongoing characters? Ooh, this is a good question. Like in the start of Helterel, there was both the encounter with the devils / demons versus Father's prisoners. Oh, so it's like showing. Do you think the Kick the Kitten is more important / impactful for one-time encounters or ongoing characters?
I would say it has more impact on one-time encounters.
Ooh.
Because with ongoing things, you know, you have the chance to slowly kind of fuck with your players after a few times. But if you're only going to show them once, you need to show them now. This is what's going on. This is the type of person you're in front of right now.
Sure. I think the difference is, like we kind of talked about earlier, the episode 1 of The Descent, when you guys were leaving by the bridge and there was just bad guys killing innocent people, right? That's Kick the Kitten for a one-time encounter, right? Mm-hmm. It immediately showed these are the bad guys. They got to be stopped. But in my opinion, I think it's more important and impactful on a long-term villain, because it shows you got to put them in a situation where they can't really do anything about it. Like the redbrands in my example, right? They're put into a situation where the redbrands don't want to fight them right now. And Barthen is like, no, don't fight them yet, right? Don't fight them in my shop. Don't fuck with them, because he's trying to protect them, right? But I'm introducing the redbrands as a long-term goal. So they're kicking the kitten now. And I only went with one example with the redbrands. I had I do a bunch of shit with the redbrands when I run the game. Like they had drug somebody out of their home and beat them to death earlier, so they heard about that. But they see when they first go into the Stonehill Inn, Mr. Stonehill is like beat up and he has like a stake over his eye because he was talking shit to them, right? And it's just the impact of these people needs to be shown all around so that the players know more and more like, oh, we gotta fucking kill this guy. We gotta stop them. I think it is a little bit more impactful for a larger scale villain, like a long term. You're right. Yeah. It is good for like, this is the bad guy, go kill him. Fetch, Okay, all right, last question of the night. We're doing one last question. Do you think time-based systems in D&D are ideal?
So this would be like chase encounters or stuff.
Oh.
Or I'm asking like time-based systems.
I was thinking like a calendar. Yeah, I was thinking a calendar. But you might be right, like a time. Like, like timing the. That's fun. I'm thinking about running an encounter like that sometime soon, where it's like real world time is something that you're going up against as well.
This one is tricky. I like the idea of having a world where things are happening when the players aren't there. Like in Curse of Strahd, there are festivals occurring in town, or there were, even when you weren't there.
Right.
And, they're preparing for a feast that's going to happen in 10 days, whether or not you're there to speak at it.
Right.
I like that. The thing is, it definitely gets very messy. Because, if you long rest 2 times in a session, if people are moving around, you have to be very meticulous in tracking the date. Otherwise, if you get off of it, it's very easy to slip off.
Yes. So for Rime of the Frostmaiden, we kept track of every single day that passed. Every single day. And by the end of the campaign, we could look at it and say, this is how many weeks have passed, and this is how many days it took us to do this, and this is how many days it took us to do that. And I needed that for a timetable of how long it was going to take the Durgar to finish their fucking evil dragon that was going to destroy the whole city. So I used that data regularly. Oh, and Ilkan was a werewolf, or a werebear. So I had to keep track of when the new moon and the full moon was. Yeah. So I had to keep track of when the full moon would be. And it always came to be some inconvenient time when they were doing something, when it's like, uh-oh, the full moon's tonight. We got to lock up Illican for the night, But for the Descent, we tried to keep track, but now that they're in, and I needed to originally because the murders took place on this day. How many days have passed since then? You know what I mean? Like when it comes to a murder mystery, you know, when someone died and where they were when they died and blah, 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 all of that is important. But now that they're out of Baldur's Gate and we're in hell that doesn't have a morning, noon, or night, I don't think we're going to keep track of the days anymore.
I'm tracking the number of days in Strahd, but I'm not doing like it's the 10th of Sintvar. I mean,
Right.
I kind of am for the festival, but actually on the splash screen I have, you know, it's session 26, day 14.
Yeah, I know.
And I've been keeping track of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've noticed that, which is kind of cool. Okay. All right. Well, that was our last question. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Eric, for joining us.
Thank you, everyone, and everyone in the chat for coming by.
Yes, thank you guys so much for joining our little live stream. If you haven't watched the video yet, go watch it now. We would really appreciate it. Leave a comment on the video, the Kick the Kitten video, please. It boosts it in the algorithm. Share it with your friends. Get it out there. Also, for those watching, we have a Discord server. It's in the description. I forgot to mention it the last time I live streamed, like one of these. There is a Discord link in the server. Or in the description. Go check it out. Eric's in there. I'm in there. We'll have a good time. Anything else you want to add, Eric?
Nope. Just thanks for stopping by, and make sure to catch the next episode in a few weeks.
Yeah, next week, right?
Yep, next week.
Next week, The Descent. Join us then. Stay sharp. Farewell, adventurers.
Farewell, adventurers.